Welcome to another video edition of Star Wars Collecting Cosmos, one of the mini episodes where we're going to look at 6-inch Black Series figures that have not been made but feel that we should have already, or should come out eventually anyway. Today I am joined by my friend, co-host from Galaxy of Toys, and on his own seemingly doing very well podcast of Toy Run, I'm joined by Jake Stevens.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good to have you, Jake. It's actually kind of fun to do this with you because I know a long time ago, you and I got together to do some panels for Emerald City Comic Con, kind of combining our knowledge way back when, before we were doing podcasts or anything like that. So it's kind of cool that we get together and talk a little bit about future figures rather than past figures.
There you go. The circle is complete.
Something like that, yeah. Well, for all those people who have been listening to these episodes or watching the episodes, as I know the Revenge of the Sith one has not been posted as a podcast yet, but only as video. Today we finally get to the original trilogy, which is probably more in the wheelhouse of most people. I know with the prequels, it was a little easier to grab a lot of figures that could be done because there weren't a lot of prequel figures done. But when we get to the original trilogy, there's a lot more done, especially with A New Hope, which is where we're going to start today. I'm going to just kind of go through my list. Jake, feel free to chime in on anything in this. And I know Jake has his own additional list to add into this. But for A New Hope, instead of starting with one of the main characters, because we've gotten a lot of those, I actually wanted to start with the Death Star Gunner, which is one of my favorite Trooper characters. I've always loved the helmet, even when I was a little kid. When we finally got more of this figure, I'll say, in the Power of the Force 2 and then beyond, I loved it. I've bought tons of these figures. I do have the original Power of the Force figure. It was one of the only Power of the Force figures I bought as a kid because, again, I loved that helmet. This kind of fits into my category of troop builders that they seem to be going with on the 6-inch Black Series, and I could see this kind of going pretty well with these. What do you think, Jake?
No, I absolutely agree with you. And like you, when the Power of the Force 2 figure hit, I was ecstatic because, unlike you, I did not have it as a kid. So I think the design on this has always been a super interesting design. It's very cool. And I think it would be a really good addition to this line because, like you said, they really go with the troop builders. It's a faceless character, and I think I think they do sculpts really well, but I think that's more of the modern movies. They do really well because they're actually capturing that 3D technology from the set, right? Lucasfilm is capturing that and then sending it out to their, the licensees. Whereas with the original trilogy stuff, I think the sculpts are sometimes not as accurate when it comes to the humans as opposed to the either masked or creature characters. So this would fall in that category, the Death Star Gunner, fully enclosed mouth and face, and I think it would be a really cool one to do, absolutely.
Yeah. Moving on from there, I do have a few main characters. There's honestly not much to do for A New Hope because they've done a regular Tatooine Luke. They've done Han Solo. They've done Han and Luke in Stormtrooper outfit. They've done Leia in the white dress. I mean, you've got the basics there, and you've got Chewbacca. You've got R2-D2 and C-3PO. So you have to skip ahead to the ceremony at the end of the movie to get ceremonial Luke and ceremonial Leia. Kind of put them together. Maybe you could even do a 3-pack where you repack that Han Solo in with a medal himself. I could see it going anyway with these, but I think the ceremonial Luke is definitely needed. They've done, 3 or 4 of him now in the 3 3/4-inch series. He's had his own Hasbro 12-inch, Sideshow 12-inch. I could see this one definitely needed in the 6-inch series. And Princess Leia doesn't get enough love, in my opinion, in the 6-inch series, unless it's Return of the Jedi, it seems. And I think ceremonial Leia is another figure that's definitely needed.
I think the ceremonial Luke is also timely since it seems like Marvel's new series that takes place following Marvel Comics' Star Wars book, which puts him in this outfit nonstop, right? This is his go-to, which is kind of weird because, as an adventurer, you don't think you would show up in your Sunday's best to, do all your adventuring, but that's the choice, of course, Lucasfilm has made. That's kind of not necessarily his fancy garb. It's just his, his new garb. So it would be relevant, absolutely. And yeah, you're right. It's been done multiple times in the 3 3/4, both cloth jacket, normal jacket. So it would be a good. I think it'd also be good custom fodder, right? Because people could turn this into, I think, a handful of things as well. So Luke for sure. Leia, yeah. I mean, she's been done in the 3 3/4 line. Even as recently, they re-released her in the Walmart exclusive wave not long ago as well. So yeah, those are absolutely major versions of those, or iconic versions of those characters from A New Hope.
I would hope if they re-released the Han Solo, like if they did a 3-pack, that they'd finally like button his shirt. I know that there's that one vintage collection figure that they did for Han Solo ceremonial. It comes with the medal, and it's just a repack of an older Han Solo. And if anybody knows who watched the movie, his shirt's buttoned all the way up for that scene. So they really should have done that.
You're absolutely right. That is a misstep that even in the 3 3/4 line, with thousands of figures under their belt now, they haven't buttoned his shirt up yet. And so it's kind of one version of Han that's still lacking from the original trilogy.
Yep. Going on from there, I'm going to go hit the Cantina. I don't want to do I don't feel like there should be too many Cantina characters, just because you don't want to get into too much of the alien stuff. It could be, I think, a little too much. We've seen that with a 3 3/4 inch. You don't want, I don't want to say a Zuvio particularly, because most Cantina aliens are actually seen more than Zuvio in the movie. But I just don't want to delve so deep into the Cantina that we're getting 30 Cantina characters eventually in the 6-inch line. To me, that's not what the 6-inch line is about. It should be kind of getting the hits from the movie rather than every single figure. So the one I really think should be made is the Cantina band member, just because obviously the Cantina band is so iconic for that. They've done Greedo to show us a little bit of the Cantina, obviously, but to me the Cantina band member would be the best choice if you're going to do anything more from the Cantina. However, you have the problem of there's 6 different instruments, and how do you do that? Do you do like the mail away fan club figure, where the 3 3/4 inch figure, where it came with 5 different instruments in a bag? Do you do like the Walmart 12-inch series, where it came, you had to buy 6 different ones?
Ooh, no. Not at $20 a pop.
No, well, that's what they were for that Walmart set too. They were $20 a pop. Yeah, but
twice as big though.
Yes, I can't see doing that. There's got to be some way, maybe in the middle, so those who want to have every band member can make it happen. I guess multiple instruments, or maybe 2 or 3 different versions. I don't know. I wouldn't want to have 6 of them, but I think even if we just had one of Fingrin' Dan, or whatever his name is in the whatever they called him from what was that? That was West End. West End.
Oh yes.
Games. Whatever they called him from that, or Tales from the Cantina, or any of that. To me, he's a Cantina band member, and or if you want, a Biff, but.
Yeah, I would of course vote for coming with all instruments in order for people to decide whether they wanted to, troop build these, whether or not, and not force them to actually pay $120 to get the whole band.
Yeah.
So that would be my vote, But like you pointed out, they've done it both ways.
Right.
They've made it generic through the mail away. They've made it specific. If you remember the Walt Disney World exclusives, remember they had the
I never bought those.
The stand. Musical stand, and each one came, they didn't name them differently, but they definitely included different instruments, so you had to kind of get the whole set. And then, of course, like you said, the 12-inch has been individually and identified as individuals. So, I think one business, I think the way the 6-inch line is, because 6-inch line, the Black Series, is a unique, is not comparable necessarily to the 3 3/4. 3 3/4 has longevity. It's been around for a long time. This 6-inch line is brand new. But the thing that the 3 3/4 line does, and is they produce like every minute variant, especially from the original trilogy, of every figure, because you can afford to do that at that scale and that price point. The 6-inch is meant to be like, this is the depiction of the character we're going to put forth, and with a few examples, tiny examples, Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker, Tatooine, coming with, the new Luke that's coming out soon is going to have the poncho and the hat, right? So they rarely do variations of the same character. So for this, I say one definitive version with all instruments, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I could see it. It could possibly work because there are going to be obviously plenty of people buying up lots of them. They wouldn't just buy one. So from a sales perspective, I could see that possibly working for Hasbro.
But you know what? They love their exclusives. And so
that's true.
An exclusive box set for some company, right?
Yeah.
It could be. They could put all of them. And people would buy it.
Yeah, I know. Continuing with Cantina, I decided to stick with kind of classic vintage characters, if you will. Not in their classic vintage style, but more modern or movie accurate. But I felt the two that needed to come out of here were Hammerhead and Walrus Man. Hammerhead just because he's such a classic a figure, the way he looks. It's kind of a cool-looking figure in the movie. I obviously always see his head really in the movie, so whether it's a one-piece bathing suit or a full cloak and everything, as we've seen in the modern line, I'm expecting it would be more skewed toward the modern rather than vintage on that. And Walrus Man, I include him and not Dr. Avezian just because A, I'm kind of looking at vintage, and B, I try to think of Avezian sitting in a Black Series box and how many people are really going to buy that. And I know Black Series is primary for the collectors, but at $20 a pop for Avezian, are people really going to be clamoring to get that, or is it going to sit a lot?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, you're walking down the toy aisle and you got an ugly old guy here. Action figure, and it's like, I can do that, or I can do a really cool alien that, is a bully and kind of an antagonist to the main characters. So I think that's smart move to go with Walrus Man over the Good Doctor. Although both of their selections though would be a timely addition to it now that we have a second appearance of them thanks to their cameo in Rogue One.
The Walrus Man, though, I would like to see come with at least a removable arm and possibly the two different hands, the kind of furry hands or the suction cup hands. We see both in the movie, and we've had a 3 3/4-inch figure come with both, so I would kind of like to see that done. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, as we've noticed, though, the amount of accessories with the Black Series has kind of changed since the beginning of the line. The line started as a definitive version of the character with different heads and possibly hands and things like that. But I think the Hasbro has said that due to costs, over the last few years since this line debuted, they've had to kind of streamline a little bit of what's included. So as much as I would love to have that, I don't know how costly that would be, but it'd be awesome.
I just figured they've done it before. They did that Poe Dameron that had 2 sets of hands fairly recently, as well as you could go back to like Han Solo had 2 sets of hands, which they did re-release with both of those. So
true,
could see that. Finally, just kind of looking through, who else could be made from A New Hope? Well, there's Wedge and Biggs. Wedge obviously goes through all the movies. It seems like he's a fan favorite. Everybody wants Wedge. I know a lot of us, when they finally released the vintage collection Wedge figure, it was like, finally, we got a Wedge on a vintage card. It was fantastic. And I also include Biggs because, of course, he's Luke's childhood friend. We've seen in the deleted scenes I have more of him. He plays, I don't want to say an important role, but he does something for Luke. He helps Luke get on within the movie and kind of enables him to keep going. I'm losing my train of thought on that. Basically, Biggs goes through and of course he's Luke's childhood friend, but with his death, it kind of spurs Luke on into more in some ways within the movie. He's lost his friend, but he's still going to continue on. I really do think a Biggs figure should be made. Obviously, Wedge and Biggs, if they really wanted to, it could be the same body that they've already used for the X-Wing Luke, which is kind of my idea behind this. I know Hasbro likes to reuse pieces just with new heads and new painted helmets.
Yeah, I think I really like the idea of a Biggs figure in there. The Wedge is, to me, when you're thinking A New Hope, a little difficult because we know we kind of got two actors and two different versions of him in that film. And so it's not quite definitive when you're watching A New Hope who Wedge is, whereas, he's very prominent. He grows in prominence. He's a little more prominent in Empire. And, of course, he's, I think, really important to the battle on the second Death Star. So at the Battle of Endor. So Wedge, I think, would make, for me, better sense in a different film as opposed to A New Hope because of that weird. Unless you wanted to give them both heads. That would be, that'd be
interesting.
That would be a cool figure.
Yeah. I think there'd be a lot of people like, why does this come with two different heads? But
exactly.
So that kind of goes through all of the figures I felt should be made. Obviously, that's not many. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 figures that I see left to be made. Do you have anything that you would add to that, Jake?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The list isn't as long as normal, I think, for a normal movie, just because they just dropped the 40th anniversary line. And so we've had a lot of those, extra characters that we were really looking forward to pop up, like Jawa and Tusken Raider. And so those were cool things that we could check off the list now. But I think I'd want to go down the road and put in Longsnout on the list. Garridan, the Imperial spy on Mos Eisley. I think he's a cool design. I mean, he's a blink and you miss it, but then again, they've made a few of those characters already in the Black Series line. They're not all iconic, key parts of the movie. Sometimes they're a minor character, but I think he's a really cool design. But also in my own personal mind canon, he is a James Bond. I have always pictured him as a James Bond, like parkouring over the rooftops of Mos Eisley and doing flips and having gadgets on his belt and stuff. He is so much more than anyone has ever given him credit, and I need someone to write that story someday for me.
Man, if Robot Chicken was still doing Star Wars stuff, there you go. I could totally see them doing something like that.
There you go. See, I'll take whoever wants to do it. I don't care, but make Garridan my, 007 of the Imperial. So I think he would be a fun design to add to the line. I had Hammerhead on my list as well. I think it's such a great, cool design. I think when you really properly build that, figure, he's like a Chewbacca size, right? He's borderlines on a deluxe because he's got some, girth to him as well. I think that could be a really, really cool figure done in that large scale. Let's see, what else is on my list? Oh, I have Biggs on my list, but you know what? I put Biggs' cutscene, his kind of dress blues. And I think that's just a really cool. I mean, if we're thinking about collectors, we understand that, they like, stuff that's, deeper than just what you see on the film because they have the history typically to go with the line that they're collecting. And so I think that would be a really sharp figure. That's only been done once or twice, in just about any toy line whatsoever.
I think just the once, a 30th anniversary figure is it.
Yeah.
They may have re-released it, but that was the only actual figure done.
Yeah, so I think it would be a good one to add to the list. It's a cool look, and it's for customizers. I think it would be new fodder out there for them as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Also on my list, I had the Cantina band, so I agree with you on that. I think again, Rogue One making it pretty darn timely with these next three. But Rebel Fleet Trooper is...
Oh, I meant to add him in. Yes, the Rebel Fleet Trooper, yes.
Rebel Fleet Trooper needs to be added to this line because, who doesn't want to fill their dioramas with Vader choking out and slicing through a bunch of Rebel fleet troopers now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
They were cool to begin with when they're kind of doing the standoff at the beginning of New Hope, but now we know what happened moments before that is just as cool as well. So, plus they're getting ready to unleash the new, oh my gosh, the name is escaping me right now. What are those?
Centerpiece. I don't remember Centerpiece. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Centerpiece. The Hasbro Centerpiece line. You know, the $50 comes with a static figure, but then it has peg holes to build scenes around with Black Series figures. And we got Vader and the Tantive coming, and I'm like, man, that sure is lacking some Rogue One Rebel Fleet troopers. So I think that would be fantastic. And then again, like I said, the other two, because of Rogue One as well, it would be fun to see like it could be a multi-pack even, throw in Biggs and Wedge, but also let's see some Gold Leader and Red Leader now that they've had a second appearance due to Rogue One. I think those would be a cool multi-pack to see. And again, you could reuse a lot of parts here and kind of kit bash some figures. So that I think is my take and on just figures. Of course, we know that we're lacking a dewback, but that'll probably be down the road someday.
Right, yeah, a dewback would be awesome. You start getting into vehicles and that. Obviously, we're getting that land speeder, which I'm looking forward to bringing back from San Diego.
Yes.
But I try to think about vehicles. I remember when the TIE Fighter came out, everybody's like, oh, they should do an X-Wing. I'm like, an X-Wing's going to be even bigger. I really don't see them doing that. It's hard to think of what else. I think a dewback would fit well into that. There's not really any speeders unless you want to do a swoop, and I really don't think a swoop is seen enough in the movie for people to care to have a 6-inch scale version of it.
Yeah, it's tainted with those who aren't fans of the special edition, even though it might be a cool design. It's just, it just isn't something that they've done. But in the 3 3/4 line, though, we've never had that figure riding the swoop, though.
Just Micro Machines has done that, but not Hasbro. The only other thing I could think of is maybe a Ronto. I don't know if that would quite work, but that's
would be cool, but I don't think there's a lot of people, I don't think there's any Facebook groups dedicated to collecting Rontos.
Well, there's only one. Well, there's the Micro Machines and Action Fleet, but yeah. There you go. We'll pick up the rest of this with Jake and cover Empire Strikes Back in the next episode. If you have any questions or comments, anything you want to see reviewed, if there's anything you feel that Jake and I missed in this, or in Revenge of the Sith, or any of the previous episodes, please feel free to contact me at swccpodcast@gmail.com, or on the Star Wars Collecting Cosmos Facebook page, or even the Galaxy of Toys Facebook page. Any one of those is fine. I'll be glad to get back to you. Until next time, yub nub.
ゲリタとともおーちゃんとんかい